Yo, it's Johan. It's been a minute. I trust you've been well. Welcome back. Today we're gonna be doing something fun. We're gonna be talking about my 10 favorite albums of all time, and I actually did a TikTok about this at the beginning of last year, and my list has changed since then. You never know. Maybe this list will be an annual thing, and 2, 3 years down the road, my list will change again, and that's totally okay. I want to put it out there too that none of the albums on this list are in any way obscure or niche. All these albums are pretty well known, and that's okay because I love them, and that's a valid enough reason as to why they would make my top 10 list of all time. So yeah, there it is. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you to my homie Jacob Iskander for helping me come up with today's topic. I'll leave his channel floating around here on screen somewhere. Go check him out, show him some love. And without further ado, here are my 10 favorite albums of all time as of this year. So to kick things off at the number 10 spot, we got Loathe with their album I Let It In and It Took Everything. Why it's at the bottom of the list is because of how recent it is. You know, this thing came out in 2020, so 4 years ago. And I shit you not, I've probably listened to this album at least once every day since it's been out. For the past for the past 4 years rather, Loathe has definitely been my favorite band, and this album has definitely been my favorite album as of late. It's such a beautiful mixture of like warm and airy synth patches with, you know, the hard-hitting, sludgy baritone guitar riffs. My favorite part of the album would be there's a section in between, or not a section, but a transition from Red Room to Screaming, because the end of Red Room sounds like you're in like a horror movie, and let's say the monster has finally caught up to you. It captures you, and before it devours you, it starts to drag your body across like a flight of stairs and like down a dark hallway. That's what the ending of that song sounds like. And then immediately after, you jump into Screaming, and then it's such a groovy song that you start dancing, you start bobbing your head, and you're like, what the fuck? But it works so well. Yeah, I haven't been this elated in discovering a new band or a newish band since growing up, when I first started listening to like, you know, Deftones, Slipknot, ABR, Of Mice and Men, Under Oath, just like heavier music, if you will. And for me, Loathe gives me that same feeling just in my adulthood. I actually had the pleasure of watching these guys play when they were here in Toronto alongside Knocked Loose, Speed, and Show Me the Body. That show was definitely like a top 5 concert experience for me. It was fucking great. Up next at the number 9 spot, we got these boys, Billy Talent, and their album Billy Talent 2. If the number 10 spot is dedicated to a recency bias pick, then I guess my number 9 spot is most definitely like my nostalgic pick. I first listened to Billy Talent as a kid. Obviously, this thing came out in 2006. My cousin Matt had an Xbox. There was like, for those who don't remember, the Xbox had this like green menu selection screen, and then there's like a menu tab where you could play music and like store all your music and stuff. And I'm pretty sure 99% of that Xbox was just all Billy Talent stuff. So yeah, shout out Matt for putting me on to Billy Talent. I guess another fond memory I have with this album is on YouTube at the time, there were like so many anime edits with rock or metal music playing in the background, and my favorite one was there was the fight between Naruto and Sasuke at the end of or at the Valley of the End. Billy Talent's Pins and Needles was playing in the background, and I've always thought that was so hard. Shout out to who also made that edit. You're doing God's work. Ian Dessaw, Billy Talent's guitarist, is one of my favorites. His most iconic riffs are laced all over this album. Pins and Needles, Fallen Leaves, Devil in the Midnight Mass, the Navy song, they're all here. This whole album slaps. That's why it's my nostalgia pick. There was before Billy Talent and after Billy Talent for me. So yeah, Billy Talent forever. At my number 8 spot, I have dedicated to a movie soundtrack, and my favorite movie / musical happens to be Singing in the Rain. My parents are both music lovers, and so naturally a part of their parenting to my brother and I was just bringing us up on musicals. The Sound of Music, The King and I, Les Mis, Mary Poppins, all things Disney. But Singing in the Rain, for whatever reason, always came out on top for me. Both the movie and the soundtrack are just so colorful and so entertaining, and there's just so many like songs and numbers that just like live rent free in my head, especially like the fun ones like Fit as a Fiddle, Moses, Make 'em Laugh. But even like the slower cuts in the movie, like You Were Meant for Me and Gene Kelly's rendition of All I Do Is Dream of You, those hit me to the core as well. There's not much else to say about this one. Yeah, it's my favorite musical, so naturally this soundtrack is also my favorite. So yeah, Singing in the Rain is sitting nice at my number 8 spot. At the number 7 spot, we got Beach House and their album Bloom. I said this in the TikTok that I mentioned earlier that you can argue that Beach House's other albums are better and more impactful with regards to just their discography in general, but for whatever reason, this one has always resonated with me the most. To put it simply, this album in particular takes me to Narnia or The Never Ending Story or fucking Howl's Moving Castle or some shit, you know, like it takes me there. It brings me to those types of places. This is definitely like a long drive and road trip type of album, specifically when you're coming back from your trip and you're headed back home. That's the album that I usually play in those scenarios. Growing up, you know, my parents would always play the Carpenters, and Karen Carpenter was one of my favorite singers growing up because of that. And Victoria Legrand's vocals, to me, are like the closest thing to Karen Carpenter that we have today. Her singing style is very conversational too, and it definitely makes for a better storytelling experience. I love Bloom. I love Beach House. Beach House forever. At our number 6 spot, we have the most punchiest, the most rock'em sock'em type of album. That would be Queens of the Stone Age and their album Songs for the Deaf. Dave Grohl, and I guess Josh Homme and the other guys are good too. If for whatever reason you've forgotten how much of a beast this man is on the drums since his Nirvana days, listen to this. Just from the get-go, No One Knows, First It Giveth, Songs for the Dead, obviously, the most legendary opening drum fill ever, or drum fills, rather. With the Beach House album earlier, I talked about how it's the album you listen to when you're coming back from your long road trip. This is the album that you play on your way to your destination. It's such a kick-ass album. Sometimes I even play this when I'm trying to get my day started. It makes me feel powerful for whatever reason, or not powerful, but rather like it gives me the power to get my day, to get my week going. Definitely a gym album for sure. And I would argue that it's actually the best rock record of the 2000s. Yeah, that's my opinion. To me, Songs for the Deaf is the best rock album of the 2000s and arguably one of the last great rock albums ever. It's a modern classic. It's flawless, yeah. Halfway through our list and at the number 5 spot, we got my favorite Foo Fighters record, There's Nothing Left to Lose. Boom, back-to-back Dave Grohl. I'm a fan, can you tell? So this is Foo Fighters, this is their third album that came out in 99. And to me, the Foo Fighters' first 3-album run is just flawless. And it's widely regarded that their second album, The Color and the Shape, which has like Everlong, Monkey Wrench, My Hero, Hey Johnny Park, those hits, it's widely regarded that that's their best album. And to an extent, I agree. But I've just always had a soft spot for their third album. This is the first time we actually get to hear Taylor Hawkins behind the kit. I think both him and Dave were sharing drumming duties on this record. But for Taylor, his cuts were, I think, Breakout, Generator, Aurora, which is my favorite Foo Fighters song ever, Aurora. I can't name his other cuts off the top of my head, but this is the first record that we get to hear Taylor play. And if you know anything about me, Taylor is my favorite drummer ever, and he is the main reason as to why I picked up the sticks as a kid and decided to begin my journey as a drummer and just as a musician in general, I guess. And though he is no longer with us, records like this, and of course the rest of the Foo Fighters discography after this, Taylor lives with us forever. So yeah, that's why this album is very special to me. So yeah, thank you, Taylor. At our number 4 spot, we got our guy Frank Ocean and his magnum opus, Blonde. Funny enough, when I first heard this album, I didn't really enjoy it all that much, you know, naturally, because I'm like, Where the fuck are the drums? Especially coming off of his previous album, Channel Orange, which was, very exciting, very rhythmic, very external experience. And then when we got Blonde many years later, it obviously isn't that. Blonde is definitely a more cerebral, more internal, more self-reflective type of album. And when you listen to it enough times, you begin to understand the function of it, and that function being to put you in a shitty space. The main understanding of Blonde is like a breakup, heartbreak type of album. I've always listened to it as a what if, or like what could have been type of album, which I argue is more hurtful. That's why I love it so much. Songs like Self-Control and the lyric of I came to visit, but you see me like a UFO. To this day, that still gets me. It makes you feel like you're an outsider looking in, that you're missing out, or that you've lost something that you can't necessarily get back. And those are the worst feelings, I'd say. Blonde as an album just beautifully illustrates that. And Frank's lyricism, Frank's vocal performances, not just on Self-Control, but on other cuts like Godspeed, even on Ivy. If you were to ask me 5 years ago, this album would I'd definitely say that this album would be my favorite. Why it isn't my favorite album anymore is just simply because I'm not in that place anymore, I guess. Here we are, guys. We are here at my top 3, and today's bronze medal goes to this lovely dude, Jeff Buckley, and his album Grace. With this album, I'm not entirely sure if it's his beautiful singing, his beautiful songwriting, his masterful guitar playing, or all the above, but I just feel like this is the best story that's ever been told to me. It's as if I'm reading like a classic, like 100 Years of Solitude or East of Eden or something like that. That's really pretentious. I'm so sorry. But I can't help it. To me, it's just that good. From the very first track, Mojo Pin, you hear Jeff's vocalizations, then you hear that sweet guitar pattern that he plays, and then you just know that you're having a friend, sit you down in his living room or something, and he's going to tell you like his whole life story. And not just that, other standouts on this album also being Grace, the title track, Last Goodbye, which you could hear in every coming of age indie movie ever, So Real, Lover, You Should Have Come Home, and of course his beautifully done rendition of Hallelujah, which to me I think is the best rendition ever, aside from the original done by Leonard Cohen. Yeah, and as I said, I think out of all the albums that we've talked about today, I'd say that this album is without a doubt my favorite story that's being told. Like my favorite realm or my favorite world that I'm being brought to when listening to this. So yeah, there we go. Jeff Buckley at number 3. All right, guys, we're here at my top 2. I'd say that my 1 and 2 picks are very much interchangeable, but 9 out of 10 times the silver medal would be going to the GOAT herself, Miss Lauryn Hill, and her album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Man, where to begin with this one? Kind of like the same sentiment of like the Jeff Buckley album that I spoke on previously. This is like the epitome of you're catching up with one of your homies over lunch or something, and you ask her, how's your love life going? Or just how's life going? And she just sits you down and then gives you a play-by-play as to all the fracture that's going on in her life. If the Jeff Buckley album was like my favorite story to be told, then Miss Lauryn Hill and how she is presenting herself in her album is my favorite character. And this is my favorite like POV story being told via this main character. Obviously, all the hits, Do Up That Thing, her rendition of Can't Take My Eyes Off You. And then you have songs like To Zion, which never fails to make me happy whenever I listen to it. This CD is the most played CD that I own, especially when I'm driving in the car, running errands or on my way to a party or something, or just like when you have homies in the car, like this is the CD that I play because everyone likes it. Or I can't name any single person that dislikes this album. This is top tier storytelling, character development at its finest. Not only is it my favorite album to come out of the 90s, but it's also just my favorite hip hop album of all time. We've made it to my number 1 spot. My gold medal, my desert island pick, as in if I were to only be able to listen to one album for the rest of my life, this is it. This is seemingly everyone's favorite Radiohead record these days, I feel. And how could it not be? You know, it's just that good. Talking about the track listing, it's 10 songs. It's a perfect length. It doesn't overstay its welcome. You know, typically Radiohead is very much known for writing music and writing albums that are very much conscious and very much addressing socio-political things that are happening at the time of when these albums are released. Specifically on like OK Computer, Kid A, Hail to the Thief, and even a little bit on A Moonshaped Pool, which is totally fine by all means. But sometimes it's just nice to have an album that's just like 10 or 12 great individual songs that also are great together. And to me, that's what In Rainbows is. And the thing is, with each of these 10 songs, they're also all equally important to Radiohead's discography as a whole. You know, 15 Step, Body Snatcher, Nude, Weird Fishes, All I Need, Reckoner, House of Cards, Jigsaw, Videotape, all songs that they play live. At least one of those songs, if not two or three, are played in each one of those sets. And like that just goes to show how important each song off of In Rainbows is to Radiohead and their whole discography. Yeah, I really don't know what else to say about this record. It's my favorite of all time. It's been my favorite of all time for the past, I don't know, almost 10 years. And yeah, Radiohead and Rainbows, my favorite album of all time. There you have it, guys. We made it. My top 10 albums of all time as of 2024. This was fun. I enjoyed this a lot, and I hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble on about inconsequential music stuff. Yeah, but let me know in the comments below what other type of music related content you want me to talk about, whether it's a top 10 list or just anything else really. Hopefully I'm more eloquent in the next one. Yeah, thank you guys so much. Till next time, I'll see you soon. Have a good one.